Here on Birds 365. We've still got you for another 40. We're going to spend a chunk of that with our next guest. There he is, popped up, ready to rock and roll from Fox 29 sports anchor and host of Props and Locks on Fox 29 as well, Mr. Scott Grayson. SG, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was very good. We actually had an extended family cruise in Bermuda, which was
nice.
Which was good. But then, anytime you go out with the extended family, right?
But enough said.
Yeah.
But did you like Bermuda? Because I've gotten mixed reviews. My wife and I went on 2 cruises there, and I had a phenomenal time both times. But I've met people who go, yeah, you got to get a boat, and they don't like Bermuda. I loved it both times I went. Did you?
You know what I love the most? Just the slow style of pace there. It was just nice to get away from the hustle and bustle of everything here, and we enjoyed that. I mean, the weather was windy, still a little warmer, but windy, rainy one day. But overall, I mean, I liked it. I had no complaints at all.
Did you rent the moped?
Did not, although I did get, if we go back, that's something I'd love to do because I just saw people on those going all over the place, and it looked like a nice way to see the island.
Except, guess what? Go into the pocket, get one for yourself, get one for your wife.
You're right.
Because we rode together when we went, and it's not good. The wife just sits behind you. Watch out! Hit the no.
Of course, they drive on the other side of the road.
I'll get my own moped. I'll follow you wherever you want to go, dear. Don't try and do the tandem thing.
Yeah,
it's only going to lead to fight.
The tandem moped. Yeah, we'll stay that. Here's my question, Scott. Did you get any fire Jonathan Gannons in Bermuda?
Yeah. I did not. It was interesting. The ship left out of New York, so there were a lot of Philadelphia people, and they actually put the Eagles-Colts game on in one of the bars.
Nice.
And that's where a lot of Eagles fans were watching, with an occasional annoying Cowboys or Commanders fan who was just clapping relentlessly in the first half. I did not hear him at the end of the game. But, I did not hear any fire Jonathan Gannons. A lot of people on edge in that Colts game all the way up to the end, which I think everybody back here watching was feeling the same way. But it was an interesting experience watching it on the ship with a bunch of other people, on vacation.
Yeah. But by the way, Cowboys or Commander, I'm going to guess Cowboys. There are no Commanders fans left.
There was one, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
He was not wearing a Commander's shirt. He had on a Redskins shirt. So you have to ask yourself, well, obviously, he's been a fan for a while, but he hasn't gotten the new gear.
And he'll be a fan when Daniel Snyder's gone. They will have their fans magically back. But until that happens,
right.
They have some issues.
But, by the way, they're in the playoffs as of right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I did not see happening. All 4 teams from the NFC, which used to be least, has become the beast, would be in if the playoffs started right now. So that's
never happened before.
Another log on the fire of, who have the Eagles beat? Basically everybody in the division. It's the best division in football. You fools who question the Eagles' strength of schedule. Annoys the snot out of me. All right, Scott Grayson, they are 10-1. Mm-hmm. And we sit here on Birds 365 every day and have to come up with 2 hours of Eagle conversation. So from time to time, we point out the questions, the slights, the problems, the issues, which you have to do if you're going to do 2 hours every single day. But you got to come back to their 10-1, and no one else in the National Football League is 10-1. Are we trying to look for the fissures in the ice a little too much, or should we just kick back and enjoy the fact that the best team in the National Football League plays here in Philadelphia?
You know what, honestly, I think that's what makes this city so much fun to be a fan in, is because that you've been through this before to a certain extent. You've been let down how many times that you have to guard yourself. You have to look through all the magnifying glass, and you want to look and try to find the weaknesses on this team, just because as a fan, all the people around here are so educated, so well versed in football, especially, that you have to guard yourself and say, okay, well, and fans here legitimately, like you said, ask the question, well, who have they beaten? And then you stop and look down the schedule. And like you did, Jody, I think you say they've beaten some good football teams, plenty of teams that are going to be in the playoffs, it looks like. And so you say, well, this team's tested. And that's why I'm looking forward to this game this weekend, because this to me is a big one. It's a big one that's going to help you figure out where you really are at this point especially on defense in my mind. And but I don't think you're wrong to look through it and say, where is this team's weaknesses? What do they need to improve on? Howie Roseman's doing it every day, and he's going out and finding guys who've been on the sidelines or been retired, and he's signing them, and he's trying to help his team. And of course, we've all heard the rumblings about potentially Malcolm Jenkins being another one to come back. And I think it's the right way to look at this. You've got to be a smart football fan, but you've also got to step back and be able to admit as well that, and I know you guys have done it on this show, this is a really good football team. It's very well-rounded as any team in the National Football League right now. And they can win, and this is the key for me, they can win different games that feature different styles in different ways.
Yeah.
And that's the mark of a really good football team.
Yeah. Well, you bring up this week, and I agree with you. Tennessee is a good football team. It's going to be a difficult game. It's going to be a big test for this Eagles team. And the obvious angst is over Derrick Henry, who is, the most powerful back, arguably the best back in the NFL. All that is right. But guess who the best running team is between Philadelphia and Tennessee? It's not Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not going to go over 363 this week, Scott.
Yeah.
But if I were to tell you the Eagles rushed more as a team than Tennessee, would that shock you?
A little bit, because I think at times you forget what Jalen Hurts racks up week to week. You get stuck on the running backs. And so I would be a little surprised by that, just by the guy, as you mentioned, who's running for Tennessee. He gets a lot of attention. And to me, that is what I'm watching most this weekend. What does Jonathan Gannon do? Does he sit back and do the same thing he's done, which is try to let his defensive line stop the run and not really let the linebackers come up and help as much as I would? Or does he actually do something different? And if he does, what and how? And I'm not. I see you guys shaking your head. I'm not expecting.
Not happening. No. I'm with you, Scotty, but John has won me over on this. I keep bringing it up, and he keeps going, Jody, just stop. It's not happening. Gannon's defense is Gannon's defense.
Well, here's where the difference can come. The difference can come. You use more 5-man fronts. You use more odd-man fronts. That's the difference. He might use more odd-man fronts, and that would be the adjustment. But, yeah, if you think he's playing extra linebackers or putting extra people in the box, it's not what they do. They want to play light boxes, and they want to limit. And, by the way, guys, think of it this way. This is what they want to do when they have the best secondary in football with Devonta Maddox and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. That's how they want to play. Mm-hmm. Now they have Josiah Scott and Reed Blankenship out there. You think they want to account another body up front and not help those guys?
No,
that ain't happening.
It's not. And that's why I look at it. And if I'm Jonathan Gannon, and if we're agreeing that he's not going to change his defense, to me, you've just got to find a way to say, listen, I don't need to stop Derrick Henry. Like, I can let him have his 100 yards, maybe even 120, but I can't let him have 200, right? And I think if the Eagles can do that, given what this offense is and what they can do, because like you pointed out, John, I mean, Tennessee's looking at this game and the Eagles offense like we're looking at Derrick Henry and the fear of the running game for Tennessee. They've got to find a way to stop that. And to me, this is a game where if the Eagles can score into the mid to upper 20s, even 30 points, it's going to be enough to win this game, even if Derrick Henry gets his 100, 120, couple touchdowns. I just don't see Ryan Tannehill beating him. And that's what I think it's going to come down to. And if you're Jonathan Gannon and you say, I want Ryan Tannehill to beat me, well, at some point you kind of got to stop the run enough to put him into third and medium, third and long. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that.
Scott, even though I run the risk of, once again, either here on our stream, not as much social media, more so, being labeled as an Eagle hater when I point out issues that the Eagles have. And yeah, I'll tell you why it gets on my case. When Jalen Hurts does it, oh, he's so focused. He's such a leader. We left stuff on the table. We could have been better. When Jalen Hurts said they could have been better, that's a great thing coming from the quarterback. Jody McDonald says it. You're a hater. Why are you going picking on the Eagles? Anyway, special teams. I don't know anybody who can find a silver lining to special teams other than the big field goal that Jake Elliott made the other night to kind of put the game away. Their special teams are a mess. They need to get better. They need to do better. They need to try something to change it. What do you think that's going to be, Scotty?
Boy, that is a great question, right? I mean, the ultimate sign of disrespect is when somebody takes the ball 8 yards deep in the end zone and is not afraid to get it out there and think they're going to get past the 25 and do what they did. I mean, that's absolute disrespect. And again, like the Commanders did with how they attacked the Eagles, against, playing the run and really beating them. They put a blueprint out there. And now Green Bay, I think, did a little bit of the same thing to say, don't take a knee in the end zone. Go take these guys on because they're not sound. You heard it in Nick Sirianni's news conference yesterday. He talked about, I know he was asked by somebody, and I forget who, about, potentially running a few starters out there on special teams to help. That's fine, but the scheme, I think, has to be better. They're just not covering all their lanes. They're not staying in – you got to stay home. If you stay home and everybody stays home, there shouldn't be gaps that create those big returns. And until they do that, Jody, I don't really know what kind of fix there is. These guys just have to be better coached, and that's right now a problem. I think the criticism has really raised its decibel level to the point where obviously Sirianni had to spend time in his press conference yesterday talking about it. And I think that's going to resonate. And I'm curious, that's one of the things also this weekend I think you want to look at. Have they done anything different there? We could say Jonathan Gannon is going to bang his head against the wall and keep the same defense. Well, what's Michael Clay? What's Nick Sirianni going to do on special teams? That's another thing to watch this weekend.
Yeah. Scott, if you go back to the Chip Kelly, Dave Bipp era, when Dave first got here, they spent a roster spot or two on good special teams player. They always made that an investment to put on the roster. If I have to look at Howie Roseman, Howie is a significant favorite to be the executive of the year. But I would say the one issue with this roster is they haven't paid enough deference to good special teams players. And it's not sexy. Nobody's sitting there going, oh, I want Matthew Slater. I want Chris Maragos. They don't think about that until you need it and you don't have it. Do you think that's a bigger issue than maybe the average fan makes it out to be?
My answer to that, John, would be, let me start with this. You mentioned Howie. I think Howie has looked at this team and felt it's good enough on both sides of the ball that special teams can be ignored to an extent. That's the impression I've gotten by watching this. But what's happened and what happened last week was Green Bay was cutting the field in half because of special teams. Now you're asking your defense to have to defend 50 yards instead of 75, 80. It is a big difference. And I think now, which is a little late, but they're realizing this is something we have to pay attention to. And right now, the only difference, to go back and answer Jody's question, you need Jake Elliott to put it out of the end zone. Can't return it if he can't be in bounds when he catches it. But, in the wind, in some of these situations you're going to face this late in the year, that might be extremely difficult to do. And so, I think you go back to the point that, I don't know that there's an easy fix to this, really, at this point in the season. They have ignored it. I think it's coming back to bite to bite them a little bit. And they've got to find a way now to limit the damage, and say, forget even the 25. You got to hold the opponent to the 30. Make them have to go 70 yards. Give your defense more of a chance. And that's the one defense in Jonathan Gannon's favor is, his defense had to face a lot of short fields last week. And that's part of the reason Green Bay was able to put up 33 points. So, I at this point, I think you're going to have to ask some starters to go out there and make some tackles. But now you run the risk of more injuries, and nobody wants that.
Scotty, I want to ask you about this week's opponent, Tennessee, because I've watched both of their games the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, they were on Thursday night, so it's a national game, so you watch every snap. And then this past week, I watched them because I thought they were, your prop and locks guys would have appreciated this, the can't lose game of the week. Oops. I thought they had Cincinnati revenge at home, everything. Ryan Tannehill threw the ball well the week before. I thought everything pointed to a Tennessee win, and they were getting points. Wrong. So yeah, you won't be having me on props and locks anytime soon. But Tannehill is an interesting case. He did the week before against Green Bay. Green Bay loaded up the box, and he threw it for 330 yards. Ryan Tannehill, I didn't think could see 330 yards, let alone throw 330 yards, but he did. This past week, Cincinnati loaded up the box, and Ryan Tannehill did diddly squat against that Bengals secondary. I see him as like the AFC's version of Kirk Cousins. He is your basic good quarterback. He's not bad. He's not great. He's good. Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Kirk throws it more than he does. But if you looked at the list all the quarterbacks in the NFL, one would be 16, the other would be 17. They're dead in the middle. Do you have any fear of Ryan Tannehill beating up on the Eagles this week?
Now, I said it before. I want him to be the one to have to beat me. If I'm the one designing the defense this week, I want him to have to beat me. But as you pointed out, and I think it's a very, very good analogy, Kirk Cousins is able to go out there and win a game every now and then. Ryan Tannehill, he can win a game, but not consistently. And I'd rather take my chances there than and I think another analogy brought up from last week was Cincinnati and their secondary. Look, the Eagles secondaries. Look, you got the injury to Gardner-Johnson, but you still got Slay on one side and Bradbury on the other. So I would rather take my chances with those two guys against Ryan Tannehill in the passing game than any other situation out there. And so I think it's a great comparison to Kirk Cousins. I think that, like Kirk, Tannehill will also give you the ball if you can get that pressure on him. But all of that to me starts with having to not stop the run, but occasionally win it down, and put them in a situation where it's not 3rd and 3 or less.
Right.
Because I would put my odds, you talk about odds and props, I'd put my odds on Derrick Henry winning that 3-yard battle on 3rd and 3 more often than not. And so I'm looking at this and saying, Ryan Tannehill, go ahead and put up your 330 yards. I dare you. And my guys out there, Slay and Bradbury, are probably going to win enough battles that we're going to take it away a couple of times and help our offense. And this offense, look, this team, in my opinion, is built. And Gannon plays the defense this way to play with the lead. And when they have the lead and they can start adding to that lead and making it double digits, now they start making you one-dimensional. That's when you can start really, really dialing in. But that's the hard thing. Can you get that kind of lead?
Don't say that too loud, because that would mean the Eagles would actually have to pass on deferring if they win the opening coin toss and say, give us the ball. Scott Grayson's right. We're better off playing with the lead, which they did last week. Not because they won the toss, because Green Bay did. And they gave it to them. They marched it right down the field and won. Don't say that too loud, because Sirianni may hear you, and you may actually have to think about it.
It's interesting. If I were to do my own prop and lock, I would do – what are the Eagles more likely to do? Load the box or not defer when winning the opening coin toss? That is a very difficult one. That is a very difficult one.
99% on both sides.
Yeah, 99% on both sides. In a weird way, is this a week long term? The Eagles need C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. They need Avonte Maddox back. In a weird way, does it kind of help them against Tennessee? Because if you're Tennessee and you say, oh, man, they don't have Gardner-Johnson, they don't have Avonte, we could take advantage of Scott, we can take advantage of Reed Blankenship. Let's throw the football instead of doing what they should be doing, and that's pound the rock with Derrick Henry. Can you see that working against Tennessee in this very short window?
It's a great thought, right? Because what do football coaches like to do? They like to think they can outthink everybody else, right? Yeah. And so you look at it, and if you're the Titans, you go, look, they know we're going to try to run the ball. So, and I was shocked the Packers came out and 2 out of their first 3 plays were pass plays. So are the Titans going to do the same thing? Are they going to go, look, I know you think we're going to run the ball, so we're going to run play action the first 2 plays, and we're going to go take a shot. It's right. You know what? If you're the Eagles, you're saying, go ahead. I dare you. And Blankenship is an interesting case in the sense that, everybody talks about the interception he had. They also want to rip him for that play, the touchdown he gave up. Well, listen, that's very fixable. He took a bad angle. You play that video back, you look at it in film, and you tell them, listen, I'd rather you err on the side of caution and angle too far and come back and make the play as opposed to, to cut two underneath. You fix that. I think it's an interesting thought that you bring up, John, and it is going to be curious to watch in that first quarter is what do the Titans try to set the tone with? And do they think that you're going to sell out to stop Derrick Henry? And if they do, they obviously haven't seen enough Jonathan Gannon because the three of us thought that's not going to happen. So you're playing right into the Eagles' hands. It's an interesting thought. But to me, when you talk about big picture in this game in particular, to me, you're sitting at 10-1. You have a luxury here of playing this game, which to me is going to be a great measuring stick game as you head down the home stretch to expose some things or to possibly show that you're better at things than maybe you thought or could have been. And as you pointed out, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you're going to get Dallas Goedert back on offense. You're going to get some of these other guys back. Jordan Davis coming back soon. So you're playing this game with a couple of cards less in the deck to know that you're going to be able to fix things with these guys down the stretch. Health is key. And I look at this and say they're 10-1 right now. How many wins do they need to be the 1 seed? Is it 13? Is it 14? They've got the tiebreakers. I mean, you may only need 3 more wins. Yeah. So you can afford to lose this game, but nobody wants that. And I look at this and say, go figure out and try some things. Like, I'd be fine with them trying some things differently against this team and saying, let's see what might work. Because you're looking big picture here. This at this point is just, you win this Sunday. Now you're 11. You may only need 2 more wins. It's a fun little thing to look at in a situation that we haven't seen many Eagles teams in. And it's kind of a fun way to look at the last, 6 games here, 5 games.
I got a great one as suggested by one of our streamers here on our stream for Mr. Props and Locks. And I know you usually set up your other guys. I'm putting you to the test here. I'm playing Scott Grayson. That's big shoes to fill, but I'm going to give it a try here. Under/over squib kicks by the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. I'm setting the number at 1.5. Are you going under or over? Sirianni was speculating. We're going to get better on special teams. How? He didn't really get into details. Could the squib kick be part of it? Less to cover, less field to get that. Do you think they're working on that in practice? If they are, they sure as heck won't do it the 15 minutes Johnny Mack is allowed in there to actually see him practice. Under/over 1.5 squib kicks on Sunday. Scott Grayson, what say you?
I'm going to go over to go along with the line of thought that I just provided, which is you try something different.
That's exactly why I asked it when I asked it.
And here's the thing.
Thanks to Tim Aline who sent that into us.
It's a great question. It's a great, fun question. And I think they're going to do, 1.5 is a tough number because I think they'll try it once. And the question is, does it work? If it does, obviously they're going to do it more.
They'll do it a second time.
The other way you can do it is you can sky a kick. You can let it come down at the 20 with more air under it to go cover. And that's another way maybe you can help your coverage team. But I think a squib kick's a great way to do it because that ball can bounce some funky ways. And all the while, as I think the kickoff return team, you can sometimes get out of your blocking lanes because you're trying to figure out where that ball's going. It's an interesting thought. And I would take the over on that.
Okay. Well, we'll
it's interesting. The Eagles are probably the only team you have to pay attention to kick returners. I mean, there aren't there aren't a lot of great kick returners left in the NFL or punt returners. There aren't a lot of big returns any longer. Haskins from Tennessee is top 10, but he's averaging 21.8 yards a kickoff return. His longest of the year is 37. Boy, we shouldn't have to worry about this, but we do.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to make a big deal out of it because they are 10-1. But boy, I mean, 50-yard kickoff returns don't happen in the NFL. And the Eagles give up 2 of them in one game. It's amazing that a team this good at everything else can't figure this out. And we're talking about squib kicks in the modern NFL. It's amazing.
You talk about those returns. I mean, sorry, you look at it and say, Jesus, I mean, he could kick it out of bounds and they get the ball at the 40 and it'd be a better situation than midfield.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it's, on one hand, it's a great problem to have, right? If you're sitting here going, boy, the worst part
that
of
is true.
Team is special teams.
That is true.
But on the other hand, it's also
frustrating though.
It is, because if you could just get not great at it, if you could just get average at it, your football team would be so much better. And it's you've got 6 weeks to fix it before you get into the playoffs. They've got time to figure it out in some sort of way. And that's why, you don't be insane. Don't do insanity here. Don't just keep doing the same thing over and over.
Michael Klein said that. I asked him, he said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. He went to that default setting. But boy, I mean, how about a mortar kick? Forget about a squib kick. How about a kick it high and let Zach McPherson, whoever you have, Andre Sachere, maybe that helps? I don't know. I don't know. But one thing you can't do is kick it deep in bad weather. Because
what do you think about, we love throwing crazy stuff against the wall, right? What about, Andy Reid used to do this kind of stuff. What about the untimely onside kick? Surprise them. They recover it.
That yet. Did Sirianni do that last year? I don't think so.
I don't think it's not in his. It doesn't seem like it's in his DNA, but he hasn't really had a special teams this bad that he's had to deal with.
Another thing to keep an eye on Sunday. All right. Last one for me, Scott, and I'll see if I can drag you down with me. If A.J. Brown coughs up the football for the third consecutive week.
Oh, not against Tennessee. Oh,
Johnny Mack gave him a pass 2 weeks ago. It was a great punch out by the defender. I said it was a bad move by A.J. Brown. This week, he had the broken blood vessel in his eye because he was so sick he couldn't even see. And that's why he gave up the football. You're a wide receiver. You can't put the football on the ground 3 times in a row, 3 weeks in a row. What will be the explanation if it goes down again this week?
The problem to me this past week was he's such a big guy, and he's had so much success with yards after the catch, right? He was trying to get more yards when that play was he had 3 guys on him. Like, you just got to go down. He's got to be a little smarter. Now, in terms of what the explanation is, if he puts it on the ground, I can't imagine there's going to be a good one. So to me, there is no explanation. It can't happen. And I look at him, and he's the one guy I circle because this game has been circled on his calendar for months. Mm-hmm. And and if I'm Jalen Hurts, I'm going to feed him frequently. I'm going to give him every opportunity to shove it down Tennessee's throats. But he's got to be smart and understand at times when plays are done. I think that's the one thing you look at him. Sometimes you forget he's still a relatively young player. Now he's a number 1 receiver. He should know better. There's no doubt. But you got to know, like, look at Jalen Hurts, right? We all compliment. And lately, I think he's starting to get away from it a little bit, but he's not afraid to slide and go down and end a play with, look, 12 yards is great. Maybe I could make a move and get 25. I could also get plastered and be out for the rest of the year. 12 yards is fine. Get down, take the plus. With A.J. Brown lately, he's getting himself in trouble trying to do too much. Just take the win, take the great play, take the gain. This offense is good enough. Go down at the 10. We'll get it in on the next couple plays. I think that's where he needs to improve right now.
Agreed on all fronts. Scotty, thank you much for coming on with us, be agreeing with me, and sharing in the, hey, you can't have a fumble this week, EJ. Johnny Mac's not going to be able to come to your rescue on this one if you go 3 straight weeks of coughing it up. Oh, the excitement of playing Tennessee again, I guess that's
well, and real quick, just to finish that thought, what did this team do great through the first half of the season? They didn't turn it over.
Yeah. Lately, well, they put up these signs in the auditorium, Scott. Yeah. That's where it all turned. Yeah. They got too cocky, and they put up these ball security signs, and boom, they start giving the football away.
Giving it up.
And how you got to tip the cap, right? Miles Sanders, no fumbles.
Yeah. Oh, you just screwed. You just screwed. Miles.
Oh, you put the jinx on Miles. He's going to put it on the carpet. AJ will hang on.
Scott.
Miles will give it up.
Just as I was saying it, I'm like, here we go. And all your listeners are going to be emailing and twittering me, tweeting me all kinds of hate mail.
Join the parade. Scotty, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on board. Always good when we get you on. We'll do so again down the road.
Thanks, all right, you got it. Thanks, guys.
Scott Grayson, Fox 29. Sports anchor and host of Props and Locks, even though my lock went up in flames last week with Tennessee. I'm going to try not to do that again this week. All right, J-Mac, Maga Mac coming back. We got to put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.
Don't wait